Hey, what's up guys? So here at a laser testing event and we've got a ton of laser guns here on hand. Now I am actually really excited because there's some guns here that I've only ever seen online. I've never seen in person. In fact, we've got a bunch of like the custom series guns. We've got everything from like the original custom ProLaser I, which is like one of the first laser guns ever created. We've got several PL2s, we've got PL3s, PL4s, ProLites. We've got some of their like survey versions that are modified versions of the PL3s. So I'm by no means an expert on all the guns, but we've just been sitting here kind of like talking about the guns, some of the different unique features, what they look like, etc. So let's go ahead and take a closer look now here at the whole lineup of custom laser guns. All right, so starting off, let's begin here with the original custom PL1. So this is wild. This gun was actually modeled after the custom Falcon, like K-band radar gun. It seems like they basically just reused the same packaging and then like stuck a laser gun inside of it. Now, taking a look at it, it's a heavy gun. Like it's metal, it is solid. It's definitely heavier than the more modern guns. We noticed there's this kind of like on-off switch here on the side, basically to power on and off. They made a slight change here when we get to the PL2 that I'll show you. But basically you've got like a power switch, you've got the trigger for firing, and then you have like a huge scope here on top. A couple things here on the back, so to display both your speed and your range to the target, your distance of course. Then a couple switches here, I guess speed, range, I guess that's audio, turning stuff on and off, and then like a self-test mode. There's also a serial port here. We actually have some of the records of when they updated the software on this gun with like an RS-232 cable back in 1992. So the gun, believe it or not, is updatable. I was actually very surprised, but we got the records on that. This is one of the first laser guns ever. We also have like an old LTI 2020, a brick of a gun. That one was like first released in 1991. I believe this one was released right afterwards. So one of the very first laser guns ever. And then the pulse pattern, it was actually rated between 375 and 385 pulses per second, it looks like. This one, when it was actually originally certified, was at like 381 pulses per second. Now, after this, they released the PL2. Now, it looks very similar, like similar design, but one of the biggest things we notice is actually the lens setup. It looks like, I guess, they separated the transmit and receive. So instead of having them both here in the same lens, they now have like a separate transmitter and receiver. So that's maybe the easiest way to tell the difference. Everything else actually looks pretty similar in terms of design, same case idea. We did notice here that with the on-off switch, it was a little confusing. We were actually having to reference the manual to like figure out how this stuff works. But basically the switch here is just an on-off switch, and then the trigger here just tells you can activate the laser gun by pulling the trigger. Now, because it was a little confusing, it looks like here for this one, it says power, turn the power on and off, and there's a little arrow here that says like, oh, this part to activate and lock is just the trigger. That's how you use the laser gun. The back looks really similar, same design here as far as the displays, the controls. The buttons are a little bit different. Looks like they just made them all kind of the same. Some of them are a little bit bigger just to make it a little bit easier to use. Now after the PL2, they made a big change, switching over, we'll grab one of these, to the PL3. This is probably like the most popular laser gun in the country. So they changed the pulse rate here. It's now 200 pulses per second. So now as far as like the optics, you can see kind of like the side-by-side lens setup. So definitely different here than the PL2. It's become much more compact. The viewfinder's smaller. It is, feels like it weighs less. I'd have to double check on that, but they're both actually reasonably heavy though. The display in the back, you can see the buttons have changed and now it has like the LCD screen on the back for displaying your speed and distance and whatnot. So definitely some more modern updates and improvements here. Now later, Kustom has actually released the PL4, which is like their current latest and greatest version. So very similar, pulse rate is identical here. You can see definitely the resemblance here in the design. The case now is obviously black. You can see actually like the kind of like more ergonomic design here of the handle itself. As far as like the viewfinder, I've owned both of these ones. A lot of times I actually prefer shooting the PL3 just because the heads-up display, it's red and it's easier to see, especially in the daytime. The PL4, I've done a video on this one you can check out. The heads-up display, it's kind of like yellowish, and so especially if you're shooting when there's like grass and this kind of stuff, it can be harder to see in the daytime. So a lot of times I actually preferred shooting the PL3. There's a few changes and whatnot, but they're actually very similar guns, and so some departments have actually been upgraded to the PL4. Now, Kustom also has a couple other guns as well. There is the Kustom ProLite. This one is really cool. So this one looks a lot like a set of binoculars, to the point where like before I started using it, I thought you looked at it like this, which, bad idea, transmitter and receiver. Don't turn it on and try to look in like a set of binoculars. The viewfinder is actually here on this side. So you're looking through here, it'll display like your speed and range right there. And then you've got a couple buttons here on the top. So transmit is right there. You've got a menu you can go through and you can kind of cycle through the menu options with the other buttons right there. It's very similar to the PL3, same pulse pattern, same red, like heads-up display inside. It's having a little bit of a hard time actually getting a lock on some vehicles we've been finding, but actually pretty similar to the PL3. The main thing is kind of the form factor. It's a lot like the LTI TrueSpeed S, where it looks like a set of binoculars instead of like a gun. So kind of a cool one here. Now there's two versions of this. There's the original ProLite and the ProLite Plus. Very similar, almost exactly the same. In fact, this one's actually had a software upgrade to add the features of the ProLite Plus to the ProLite, so it is updatable. Now, as far as the changes, there's only two differences between the ProLite and the ProLite Plus. Number one, the original ProLite, when you're using it and you're triggering, it's only like in single shot mode. So it gets a lock on a vehicle and then it just displays the speed in the viewfinder and then stops continuing to update. The ProLite Plus added the ability to like continue tracking the vehicle even after it gets the initial speed. The second thing is they've also increased the maximum distance that you can lock in vehicles. The original ProLite could lock in cars up to 1,500 feet. The ProLite Plus upped that up to 2,000 feet. And you can also tell the difference after the update to where it'll display a little plus on the LCD display so that you know that it's actually the plus version of the ProLite. So if you're looking online, you see kind of both of them on eBay or something. Those are the differences. Now, there's also going to be the Laser Atlanta SpeedLidar R. This was actually my first laser gun, not this exact one, but this is the one that I got before I bought a PL3. This one was actually known for like its extreme long distance acquisition capabilities. I think it was rated for like, off the top of my head, like 11,000 feet or something crazy. I'm probably wrong. I'll put the correct thing. I'll look it up and I'll put the text on the bottom of the screen. But this one was actually known for like long distance capabilities. Now, what was interesting is Kustom and Laser Atlanta used to be the same company. And so for that reason, like the pulse rate out of the PL2 and the Laser Atlanta, it's actually the same, which is why if you like get shot with either of these guns, like the AOP, for example, will actually report it as if it's a PL2 because it's the same exact pattern, just coming out of two different guns. This one does have a stealth mode, which was one of the first like anti-jamming features ever built into any laser gun. Very easy to defeat, very simple approach, but it actually does have that feature. It does take longer for the gun to acquire a speed based on how that feature works, but that is there. Now, the last one to mention here is going to be this one. This I hadn't seen before. So this is actually a survey version of the PL3. It's not designed for speed enforcement. It actually doesn't even have the ability to do speed measurements at all. It's very similar to the PL3. You can see the resemblance here, right? But the idea is they've added a couple things. So they put in like a compass and a gyroscope. So if you want to do any sort of like measurements, you know, for like accident reconstruction or I guess survey stuff, which is what this would be for, it does have that capability. It's going to be actually pretty similar to the LTI TrueSpeed SX or the SXB, which just adds Bluetooth. So similar idea, just with like the kind of angle measurement stuff that they'll use for accident reconstruction for law enforcement or for surveying, I guess if you're just like doing construction work or something. But the viewfinder here, it's definitely bigger. You can see just compared to like the PL3 and PL4, just for that extra hardware, but they sell that here as well. So anyways, that's a look here as far as these different custom guns. I'm actually super excited about just getting a chance to finally use them. I don't know if we're gonna have a chance to actually shoot them just because we're so busy here with testing. Looks like we've got people kind of stopping from time to time. So maybe I'll try to get a couple sample clips of some of these guns in action. But either way, yeah, here's a look at all the different custom guns. So thank you to everybody who's been bringing equipment out so that we all have a chance to play with it and take a look at it, and I can do the video and share this with you guys. So if you know anything more about these guns, please feel free to add some additional like historical information or technical details or context down in the comment area below. So with that said, more videos to come. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys are doing great. I'll see you in the next one.